Good afternoon. Happy New Year to everybody. Welcome. Welcome to our annual meeting. This is the Children's Trust annual meeting. So it's we've got some business to be related to that today. So I'm going to call the meeting to order and get us going. Any member of the public wishing to be heard shall come forward to the podium at the appropriate time and introduce themselves to the board. Members of the public recognized by the chair will have 3 minutes to speak on a single subject matter which would address the current motion on the floor. And just to be clear, once a motion has been made, the only comment can be related to that motion. General comment would be at the beginning of the meeting. The clerk of the trust will function as our official timekeeper. Clerk will now call the roll and verify that at least 5 members of the trust are physically
Member
here.
Member Andrew.
Present.
Member Smith.
Here.
Member Hannah.
Here.
Member Hart. Yeah. Member Ferrero.
Here.
Member Peterson.
Here.
Member Schneider. Here. Member Conley. Here. Jennifer.
Here. Thank you very much. All right, we have an agenda that needs to have one addition to it, and that is the election of a treasurer of the trust and the passing of the gavel, which will happen in today's meeting as well. So with the addition of the election of the treasurer on that agenda, you can have a motion to approve.
Move the agenda as amended. Excuse the consent agenda.
That'd be great.
As well as the consent agenda.
Second. We have a motion, we have a second. Do you have any other discussion? Do you have any public comment on the motion to approve the agenda? Seeing none, everyone in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. General comment. Anyone wishing to speak, come up to the podium, please.
Oh, y'all, my name is Andrew Miles. My whole purpose is to request an exemption of 1 overnight trip vehicle rentals for Greater Duval Neighborhood Association Sons Program. Summer Sling is a 6-week program where high school age children are given the chance to see and experience career opportunities that will provide them with a living wage while also strengthening their self-esteem, independence, social skills, civic engagement awareness, and give them a map to being successful. Our goal is for the children to experience personal growth and feel confident in their abilities to become successful adults. Our objectives are to introduce youth to career paths to develop a plan now for after high school, to give youth the opportunity to practice and strengthen their listening and social skills, to increase self-esteem by demonstrating their ability to independently supervise and be a subordinate by practicing team building and leadership skills among their peers, to increase total independence and decision-making skills and responsibilities, to give youth an opportunity to experience a lifestyle that can be achieved when planned out. We take them to visit several colleges, universities, alternative programs, and job sites. Not only do they get to hear about the careers, they also get the chance to see and experience by actually touring sites and actually get some hands-on experience with what it will take to plan for a career to have a successful lifestyle. They get to hear, see, and experience careers that require specialized degrees or training, as well as careers they can enter with a high school diploma. Our youth learn about civic engagement and have conversations with city, public officials, and activists on civic duties and careers in politics. Youth learn conflict resolution, teamwork, and decision-making skills for career options. This program is free, and we target low-income participants and those with special needs. Our end of the year excursion trips always give them educational experience with money management and other continued life management experiences. We have learned recently for this year, only vans and transport services are to be paid for transporting. Our movement weekly requires a lot of driving, and at time changes in destinations and always requires space for 16 passengers. We need 2 8-passenger vehicles, which they do not have the 8-passenger vans, but they do have 8-passenger SUVs, which allows all participants and staff to be transported in a safe fashion. 2 15-passenger vans would not be practical for cost reasons. Also, our overnight trip is an experience that further enhances our youth self-esteem and self-awareness. DDA has not had one incident in 5 years of overnight trips, and each person chaperoning is background screening. We are requesting an exemption for overnight trips and rentals of the SUVs. That's what we've done last year and in previous years. Others will speak more on this. Thank you. I'll translate this to be presented for your records. Look like this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I appreciate Andrew for that overview. What I wanted to talk about is, I'm so sorry. I'm Carla Lewis. I'm the CEO of Greater Duval Neighborhood Association. I'm also one of the facilitators of the Summer Swing Program and the Children's Trust provider. Okay, all right, so one of the most important things I think is a little bit broader as we're developing trust. We all know that it is very new, and I know that it is constantly changing. One of the things that we make it a practice of, in order to be efficient in our program, is starting to plan soon after. One of the things that Andrew mentioned are the rental vans. We've had a relationship with Enterprise, and getting a 15-passenger van is like trying to find a belly tuck for $5. So that is one of the reasons why we start so early in planning. At the time we got ready to sign our contract, there were a couple of things in there that were changes that's not really swift for us to make. In order for us to honor our corporate status with Enterprise, we rent these vehicles. Going in trying now to get a 15-passenger would reduce a seat for one of our chaperones, and also, like Andrew said, be a little bit problematic. The only way we talked about in our board meeting being able to accommodate is reduce the size of our class. And that's definitely what we're not trying to do. We're trying to serve more people. Last year, even with our rental expenses, we came under budget. And we came under budget because we have the flexibility to scale our program. And just a little bit about the end of the year program and why all of these children programs can't be in the box. And they have to be evaluated together, but also separately. Because our program, like Andrew said, has a different purpose. We like to expose our kids that would normally not have a chance to see some of the things that we've been able to show them. And we have a set way of the way we communicate with parents. We create video diaries. They follow us and they don't have complaints with us taking their kids. The first 2 days of our trip is not just all fun and games. It's a part of what they work. We take them shopping, they have to budget. They're not off until we're traveling back home. So we have a work program and that's a part of their work. Once they're on that trip, they get paid for that time. That's a part of their pay. And they have to talk with mama, spend time school shopping. They have to shop. So that's part of our teaching. To take it out would be problematic for a small budget. And we're gonna be having to kind of do our stuff ahead of time and be reimbursed. And that's stressful enough. But we just do have enough money to get it done. Any changes at this point would be difficult. So what we're asking is that if changes need to be implemented that are different from the program that we ran for the past 2 years paid for by the trust, that you do so in the following funding year and the third year of our 3-year contract. Thank you.
Amen.
We have questions for either, Andrew or Carl from the board?
I have a question. So you said it had been paid for, the trust paid for the rental of the van? Is that what you said?
The trust pays for transportation for us,
Right.
to be able to transport our children.
And so I guess,
But is this for one trip?
Okay, can I add- Because what they're saying this year is that transportation can still be paid by the trust, but it only will pay for vans and private transportation services. But the way that we've done in the previous year is that we've been able to rent the SUVs because they hold the appropriate amount of people for us to be able to provide the services like we provide and so forth. And it's a cheaper cost overall, but then also it meets and do everything that we need to do. And we've done it for the last 2 years. We just found out just recently of the change and so forth. And so we really didn't have enough time. I said already.
I think I understand. Go ahead. I'm trying to figure out why the
Is
change.
the issue, I'm just trying to make sure I understand the issue. Is
They're-
the issue
they're-
that you're not allowed to travel overnight?
No, that's.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Ms. Ferrero, there are 2 issues. One of the issues is they said that we have to move from an SUV with seats, the trust.
Okay.
We have to move from, and that they directed, and that's why they asked us to come and
Okay.
present our
Okay.
concerns. So they have to move to a 7-passenger van model only vans, 7-passenger or the 15-passenger. 15 and 14 seats won't accommodate the 16 people we need to travel. That's problem number 1. The second thing, they said that they were not funding overnight trips. Our overnight trip is a part of our program, and it's a part of the way the summer program has
So
ran.
you want to change to your contract, that you signed, that you've been doing. I got
Right, and it's time for a new contract to be signed.
Gotcha.
It's time for a new contract to be signed, but it's coming up now, 5 to 6 months before I need to have everything finalized. And it's just hard and difficult to go back now and try to make those accommodations for some, especially around in Alachua County where a lot of the transportation is limited. I would like, and just to put on record, eventually, if there's enough funding, to see the trust maybe invest in a fleet. So that helps to eliminate some of the costs and maybe lease them out to different programs during the summer. That will keep you all from funding every year. Transportation.
A lot of liability.
Yes, Ms. Maggie, but I said the same thing, but even when I rent my vehicles, we purchase extra protection so that the trust is not liable and neither is Greater Duval. And so there's ways around it. I'm not saying it's cheaper, but it's something to explore, because at this point, and I appreciate it because we need the transportation. But if you do this for year 3, you've already purchased us a vehicle when we can have something ongoing for our program, and not keep pouring money to enterprise. So be it, buy us one, let us get one, and figure out a way that we can get standard transportation where we eliminate the use for rentals at all.
Commissioner Colonel, thank you for your hand that you want.
I was just gonna say to our staff, I don't mind referring this to staff, I'm in favor of a short-term exception while staff works on a long-term solution. And so if that's the direction staff needs, I'm not gonna make that motion during the time.
Second.
Okay.
Kathy, she made a motion. Yeah.
Question.
I would like to hear from staff before we make any final vote.
I think the question for your motion would be, are you providing an exemption for both of their requests or just for the transportation issue? Because you have two requests, right?
Yes.
Yes, right. So I want to be clear. One is for the SUVs, the other is for overnight. And I believe, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Carla, the trip that you all are planning this year is going to be out of state.
Yes, they've all been.
They've all been out of state.
Yeah. Except for last year, they wanted to see spaceships and we took them to NASA, so.
And you've been funded, you were funded last year
And year before,
Yeah.
when we took them to the Equal Justice Initiative in Montgomery, Alabama, we were funded for this.
Yeah.
And then, again, we're trying to take out the stuff that they need.
Yeah, so Hannah was like, that was kind of back and forth this a little bit.
Yes, ma'am.
Because we're gonna be confused for a bit, Judge Ferrero, you have
Well, I just want to clarify, I guess since I don't know what their specific contract says. I want to make sure I understand, are you asking, when are you wanting to do this, like sometime in the summer?
This is a part of our summer program.
So you're getting ahead of the game and want to make sure this contract is not being violated by getting permission. Got it. And then you want us to think, as if going forward with your next contract, potentially make a change so that you don't have to have the same problem. Is that right?
Correct. Or at least consider the changes that you make in and make them for individual organizations. We have a good track record of taking our kids out of town, and that's one of the big selling points and why communities love the program. And so when we are put in a box, not because of something that we've done, but because we need to draw back and create some standards by all really creating those best practices to keep our kids safe. Just don't make us pay for it this year, because I've already set up for them to go to Ashe. And so they will be touring Ashe Cultural Center, which is an experience that they won't get. And really, we look for places in Florida and it just falls short. So we're taking them to like Alabama, Atlanta, and different places where they can see their culture and history.
And
So
do you
to
have,
clarify, just so to clarify the motion, Ken, are you addressing one or both?
Well, this organization, and you probably know, does amazing work and unique to our community and what they're providing, and I am in favor of making an acceptance for both while staff develops along with the provider along.
Dr. Snyder, you have it.
I just wanted to hear from the staff as well. Thank you for that. I just wanted to hear like what the issues are around both of those things. Like, is there something that, as they're saying, that's in policy that we have to think about or address? From a state statute perspective, I think that would be helpful for us to hear. I'm in favor, but I want to
Yeah,
make
sure.
sure.
I'll address one at a time. The transportation reimbursement, the staff looked at the different types of transportation that were being used by different programs for the summer. And so within the handbook, we did limit it to the larger vehicles, sending that information out in December to give programs that start in the summer 5 months to prepare for that. We were also looking at trying to ensure, we're trying to not have, if they rent, a smaller vehicle and they're using it multiple times, finance was looking at, will that require them to use some type of daily log? And we didn't want to have to do that. And so if they rented the vehicles that they needed specifically for their trips, then we knew that this is a trip day, this is the vehicle rental information, they submit that information, and then that's all the supporting documentation that would be needed for that. During the call that we had with Carla and Andrew, what we discussed is we know that we have purchased some vehicles for other providers. And so the last comment we made was, let us go back to those providers, find out, are you utilizing these vehicles? How can we provide Greater Duval with their own vehicle? Because she's absolutely right. We have purchased 2 by this time. Okay, and so that is where we ended, and that's what we wanted to look at for Greater Duval. Your comments are accurate and may not, with the 16 passenger van, it may not work as well. But we were trying to see with some of our other programs who are not utilizing those vehicles based on what our capital purchase policy is and how we can maybe transfer a vehicle from one program to the next. With the overnight and out-of-state trips, with the challenges we had last summer, the trust really wanted to, and I don't know if you all remember when Gina Peoples was here from the county, we had some challenges with our overnight camps. And then we had some abuse issues with a different camp. We wanted to have a policy in place, and until we had that policy in place, we asked any camp that was overnight, that included any type of activity that was overnight, to not have that overnight component until this trust had a standard, a policy in place that we knew we could implement and have them follow for any overnight or out-of-state trips. Paid for by the trust. Paid for by the trust. We're not restricting any provider to not include that, but if trust funds were being used while we were working with our other CSCs as well as our attorney to see what all they were doing, we wanted to have something in place that would provide some guidance if the trust was going to fund those type of activities.
And I absolutely, like I told Ms. Goldwire, I understand the need to do that, but I'm asking that this year, in this instance, that the organization that had the issues be up under that and be allowed.
Dr. Goldsmith, I thought I heard hand up.
I'm sorry.
Commissioner Cornell was next.
Don't have a question, just have a comment about the program and the strength of the program. For the biggest strength is they do a lot of pre-planning. And that's one of the things that we really like. For example, when they're starting in the summer, they're already connected with Santa Fe in the fall, 6-7 months in advance to make sure that everything is laid out. They highlight a lot of STEM related initiatives, which as you well know, will allow the students, that's an area that we really need to pay a lot more attention to. So I would say that's a strength. They've been very consistent from year to year in terms of having the programs, and Santa Fe has really been just really excited to have them as a partner because of the pre-planning, because of the consistency, because of the packet that they submitted. And looking at the packet, we had an opportunity to look at it. It's very clear. Here are the goals, here are the outcomes, here's how we're going to evaluate, here's how we're going to assess. Here's what we're hoping to accomplish. I think many of us take for granted that students know about the Northwest campus. But for many people who live in East Gainesville, just getting past Main Street, you know, it's a big deal. So when they come to Santa Fe and they're exposed to all of those programs, for many of those students, that's a first. And I think anything that we can do, you know, to increase the exposure that they're referencing here today, I think we should give that some serious consideration.
When's your next trip?
At the end of our summer program at Energy.
Of 2023.
2023.
Can staff have a policy to it before then?
You can do that.
So if staff could have a policy to it before then I think we could probably solve it.
I think the challenge I heard though, there's somebody that can together this now.
So I want to make the exception. But I think to staff point, to Dr. Schneider, I think we can solve the policy issue if we can address it at the same time on the staff side. So they can plan out.
Mr. Swain, you had
There are a number of different issues that the board is going to have to make a decision on. Some of them being legal risk. First off, the type of vehicle used is a cost factor more than anything else, but you you include with that risks, youth protection risks and chaperoning. So what sort of standard of making sure that you have, who's watching the walkers, like, you know, 2 adults with any group of kids. So I mean, whether it's an SUV or a van is really just a
We have 3
cost.
with 13.
Pardon?
We have 3 with 13.
No.
So we try to keep a 4 to 5
Per vehicle.
per vehicle.
Per vehicle, that's what I'm talking about. That's one of the things the trust needs to consider is what is the ratio.
There's 2 vehicles for the 7 passengers and 1 person for the 6.
Okay, well, that's one of the things the trust is going to have to consider is the ratio when you're going to have adults alone with
So you're
minors.
saying two chaperones per vehicle. 2
Well, I'm saying
adults.
it's a discussion point
Right,
because
it is.
there is going to be risk if you have 1 adult
And you have a ratio for camp already, right?
with, you know,
You don't have a
Um,
ratio like
Your,
1 per 6 or,
for your on-site camp, yes, that is in your RFP and already in your contract. There are separate concerns that Bob is suggesting.
right? No, I was just thinking of it from just.
Yeah, I
thinking
think,
of-
I think the discussion, because I'm not sure you guys were here when that all came up, was the ratio. And you've got overnight and kids sleeping in potentially multiple rooms, and then what's the ratio and what's the supervision structure, and that was partially what made us pull back. So I think that's one of the considerations that you and staff, and I hear the desire to make an exemption for this. I think it's something we need to send back to staff to figure out what the adequate, I mean, we give them the direction of, we want to make this work. And then they figure out what that ratio needs to be in conjunction, maybe with Mr. Swain around
And we can try
the
to.
risk and liability issues.
So currently with the ratio that we have 3 staff to 13 students. And we have like 3 rooms usually. So
We have 3 separate rooms, 1 staff, 4 people, 1 staff, 4 people, 1 staff. Like that. That way we make sure nobody has to sleep on top, and then we get the double in the queens and make sure that the boys it's always more girls than boys. So we usually have 2 girl rooms and 1 boy room, and we usually round up about 4 boys. Typically, there's always one little person that may not be able to go, but we want to make sure that we have enough for everybody
And
that.
I don't think we're gonna be able to.
But if
solve that.
we need to, and I would love to hear back from Ms. Goldwire and Ms. Kiner, if we need to accommodate for that staff so that we can get that funding for this year and then have a standard and be prepared. Like I said, we were a little bit under budget last year, so even without increasing our funding, I think we have enough to do what we need to do.
No, I was just gonna say, when we talked, I was asking you all to give us a little time, because we wanted to investigate. You wanted to come to this board meeting, without coming home. But I think we all understand that this is a great program, and we want you to be able to expose our youth to these wonderful opportunities. We just have to take the time,
To make sure.
our due diligence,
That's right.
exactly. That's all we were trying to.
That's right.
to say.
Okay.
So we have a motion, we have a
I
second.
mean, it's staff, you wanna modify this motion, I'm open, I just wanna
The motion just to send it to staff.
send it to staff and then let y'all work on it. Okay, yeah.
So we have a motion, we have a second. Do we have any other board discussion or question? Do we have any other public comment on this issue of motion? See that, everyone.
That's our board member. She's like, what do you mean? We just down here, appreciate you and your time. Thank you all so much for your-
Aye. Anybody opposed? Thank you very much. Thank you, Carla and Andrew.
Thank you.
All right, any other public comment today? Seeing none, that brings me to my report, and so this is my final meeting as chair, and so the first thing I want us to take care of is nominating a treasurer. The way I understand this from Mr. Swain and Ms. Kiner, who have done the homework on this, is that we take nominations from the floor for treasurer. Feel free to nominate yourself. I do that. I'd like to be optimistic. And so,
I'll ask it.
Well, if I wasn't already chairing the steering committee, I would think maybe the next year if I'm not.
Steering committee, that over. This- Like, significant role until, when vice president or vice chair and then the chair, so it's 3 years.
And I do think you've been
I'm-
in that role.
I have, and I'm,
He wants your signature off of that.
yeah. So I will extend that after that, maybe, hopefully not, but I will probably, if it goes, then I'll be vice chair.
Any nominations? Oh, if you go ahead,
Oh, yeah, I nominate, Ken.
or Ken, are you willing?
I can't because I'm not sure if I'll be here, so I don't know that I'm the right person.
Yeah.
So we haven't got.
There's
But I
something maybe
appreciate that.
4 years, but.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it. Yeah, that is, okay, so we have a nomination, which is the same thing as a motion, we need a second.
Second.
A motion and a second. Do we have any other people to be nominated, or are we ready to vote? Any comments? No, I'm not hearing anybody else jumping up and down, thank you. Do we have any comments on that nomination from the general public? All right, everyone in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, thank you very much. I think we now have a complement of officers about to take over. Before we do though, we have a departing board member whose service, this is your last meeting, is that right? I got that right? Okay. So Karen, we wanted to thank Karen for her dedication and always thoughtful and considered comments and input at meetings. We lose also Hannah. Before that is, I do want to thank Karen. I have always found her just so thoughtful and quiet, and so she has something incredibly important for us here to say. And so, so my rule for any gifts to outdoor board members is they should not have to dust it. Which was advice. Don't give me anything I have to dust, but with watering, I've always been happy to receive. So thank you so much, Karen. Anything you'd like to say or share?
Oh, it has been a pleasure. It has been a pleasure to be a part of a board that's committed to young people. Young people, because the young people are really our future. And just to come here and be a part of the process. You know, when you're on a lot of committee meetings, all of them don't always run that smoothly, but I can say that this committee has been just excellent. Excellent, respected each other, ideas. We've had a lot of diversity in terms of thought and process. But we always remember the mission and what the focus was really on. The focus has always been on the children. And so I really enjoyed it, and thank you very much for allowing me to serve.
And before I pass the gavel, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to serve as your chair. I too, the diversity of opinion and the respectful way in which we deal with some tough issues, some tough decisions sometimes, but the amount of talent on this board is fabulous. So I wanted to say thank you all. It's been a real pleasure. I'm not sure how long I'll be on board. That'll be up to the governor. Forever. We're gonna be really quickly if you read my tweets. So. I'm not sure how long after the last round.
Yeah, I have to just say, Lee probably shares much of what I'm about to say, but when this trust was nominating governor appointees, one of the things that we really wanted to do at the county level was make sure we had a mental health expert, a pool of mental health expert, and a pool of really community voice advocates. We both, Dr. Colsmith, Dr. Labarda, were that entails in the entire community, just excellent folks to serve. And this trust is so much better because of it. Maggie, I'm glad you're staying, as long as you doesn't read your book, so. Stop reading. But I also understand your next stage in life, and Dr. Copeland, I think Dr. Labarda said it perfectly. Your quiet, but incredible leadership. When you speak, like, we all kind of lean forward and listen, it's like E.F. Hutton, but it's true because you just have a way of, in a very short and direct, but impactful way, making a comment that reflects so many people that don't have a voice. And thank you. So,
Thank you. And now, it is my pleasure. and
what the
honor-
nomination? I think we're.
No,
Oh, you automatically have to.
we elected you as treasurer, and I get the honor of handing this over, and you can finish the chair report.
What?
Uh,
I thought you were gonna be the chair to the whole meeting, so I thought.
Run this thing. Run this thing.
Well, as chair, I'd like to just offer some parting words to Dr. Cole Smith. It's been a pleasure. As Kenneth said, I agree with everything he said and further with you, and good luck and all the best to you as you transition into retirement. She is that so giddy. And it has been a pleasure to serve with you and Maggie. These big shoes to fill as chair. She's been a big chair, and it's unfortunate that we have the sunshine, else I can call you and ask for hints, so. Can't do that about this right here, but I appreciate the foundation that you laid and passing this on. So with that, we will go on with the rest of our agenda here. We'll find out where we are, because as I said, I thought that we were going to leave this chair stuff with you until the end of the meeting. Item 10, okay, so now we'll have our executive director's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll keep it relatively brief. You all should have an annual report. I want to thank staff for all of their hard work, particularly pulling all of this together right before the holidays. And we had a couple of printing glitches, but we corrected them, and you all are looking at the new and improved version.
Oh, okay. I did something, so you gave me one and I gave it back to them because I already had one. So should I keep
Yes,
this
keep
one?
keep the new
And
one.
not the one?
Yes. We'll give you another one. I learned in my previous positions, whenever you print something, you always see the things that you should have corrected, right? And the wonderful thing about this was we hadn't printed many, so we were able to go back and print some more. So again, I want to say thank you to Dan, to Bonnie, and really to all the staff for your hard work in pulling together all of this information. If you want to look at the cover of the annual report, over 18,000 opportunities were produced this past year. I think we have a lot to be proud of. So kudos to the trust, to the staff, to our providers, to everybody who has touched what we've been doing in any way. And I expect that our annual report for 2023, that number is going to be even greater. So please review it. We hope to be utilizing a lot of the information inside of our report, on social media and out in our community, letting them know what we've been doing. That pretty much sums up my report, Madam Chair.
All right, anybody have any questions or comments?
Great, yeah, if I could get a copy, we have a board meeting tomorrow.
Yeah, I'd like to pass it out of the foundation board meeting later this month, so it's saying.
I really like the fact that we have all of our providers in the round. I think that's good.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I don't remember if we introduced our new finance director at the
You did
last.
not.
That's my bad.
Okay.
I was actually getting ready to ask Maggie who that was, but she.
So she's only been with us, what, is this week three?
December 15th.
Yeah, December 15th. But this is our new finance director, Diana Sanchez. I cannot express to you how happy we are to have her on staff and with us in her short tenure. We've already begun making improvements. Many more to come. Diana, you want to share just a brief bit about your background?
Well, I grew up in New York City and I went to Bernard Brew College and I majored in finance. I've been working out of college for 35 years now. About a lot of that time has been with about 4 not-for-profit agencies. And so I just want to point that out because I sit here wanting to be an advocate on the other side as provider and work to help providers and CTAC improve the processes that are already in place.
I have one question. You said something like 35 years. Did you say you worked out of college for 35 years? Because your voice went down.
Oh, no.
So I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I've been out of college. And
Okay, and
35 years in this field.
in this field, okay, and you said 4 in nonprofit last year.
There were at least 4 nonprofits
4.
in my background.
I actually, just as she was starting, had the opportunity to speak to her, one of her former bosses who called me about something really unrelated and said, oh, by the way, I just hit it out of the park on that.
Oh, thank you.
Mr. Pierce.
Oh.
No, well, we've had our challenges in that area.
Yeah.
So welcome. Well. That's all I'll say. Welcome and be good. Because that's my praise. 2023, welcome and be good. We'll move on. Our next item on our agenda is our committee appoint updates on our listing project online.
Okay, I'm going to introduce Dr. Stacey Williams once again to provide an update. Dr. Stacey Williams is one of the co-leads with Prismatic Services, who's the organization carrying out the listing project activities analysis and updates. She is online and I think she has her PowerPoint up and ready, so I'll turn it over to her.
Good afternoon. Hope everyone had a wonderful holiday break and a great start to this new year. It sounds like a lot of exciting work happened over the course of last year, and we're looking forward to continuing with this project. You will see the same format as last month's update. Just a few updates. We did complete our focus groups that we discussed last month. We've also closed the survey as of today. We are excited to say that we have reached statistical significance, and our survey numbers, in the beginning, I think everyone was a little nervous when we started seeing the low numbers, but through everyone collaborating together, the wonderful partners, providers, trust staff, everyone reaching out, making a few pivots to make surveys easier, more accessible to all the communities, and also making sure we heard from all communities. You see our numbers now, 899 parents. And I'll tell you, around Christmas time, around the holiday, family events and religious events, it's hard for people to take even 5 minutes to do a survey. So I think over the past few months, including the Thanksgiving time, everyone did a great job, and that's a lot of surveys. So we're excited to be able to start diving into the data and hearing exactly what parents had to say. Students as well, we're at 320, again, statistically significant. We're excited about those numbers as well. The number of providers that also took more than just a few minutes on the provider survey and the partner and key informants, those numbers look great as well, with 75 at providers and the key informants and partners at 34. So we're over 85% of those we reached out to, and those organizations that responded. We did complete the a focus group with the key informants and providers. We did not have significant interest in doing more focus groups. And we feel like that's partly because of the interview opportunities, where we had so many to interview individually. Also, several came to the community events. And then, of course, the survey opportunity. So we're glad to hear that folks felt like they had their voice heard and had a great opportunity as well for that. Are there any questions about the events or anything that is on this screen as an update? Okay, and just one more thing, where do we go from here? What are our next steps? You can see the timeline that we had laid out initially. So we did close the surveys, and then the next thing will be getting into the data and getting everything ready for the data party. So we'll have those materials published for you on the 16th. So we can plan, you can have a chance to take a look at the data before the data party on the 23rd. By the end of March, the final report will be posted. There will be an April 3rd board presentation, and that's when you'll hear even more about the data, the final report presentation. And then May 15th, the initial communications products will be put out, and then the final communications products will be out. Those products are things that will go out to the community. So of course, there'll be ample opportunity for the board to give feedback into what it looks like, and make sure we include all the information in the format that you're pleased with before everything goes out. Any questions here? Or Bonnie, do you certainly have anything to add?
Oh, that was great, thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. White, Dr. White, for that update. We're going to have any questions, anything for her? Thank you so much for that update. Actually, it's fine. Can you get us a copy of those dates? I was trying to write them down, but I don't. I want to make sure I don't have any conflicts when I'm having stuff that's here.
The February 23rd meeting, that's the steering committee.
Oh, because it's really good concern that we have.
So that data first the steering committee, so that's a public meeting, anyone can attend. And then the 3rd, that's a board meeting, so you'll be here for that. And then the communication products, I imagine will continue in our monthly updates on that. So that will definitely be something that will.
The 27th is not a board.
The 27th is when we'll post it, so that's when the packet will be completed and March.
I'm not there, that's why I was asking.
Okay, yeah, so that's when it will be available.
I have, can I ask a question? Yes, I have on my calendar that April 3rd is a longer meeting.
Yeah.
A workshop. Yeah.
That's why, because we'll be workshopping the results more than.
And we're having a steering committee meeting on January 19th, this is virtual. So that will be the precursor to our data party. Lots of meetings.
All right, well, thank you so much. Anyone else? Dr. Snyder, Dr. Hart?
We had a great steering committee in December. I feel like it was like 3 months ago. It was December. All
right, thank you. Next we have a presentation for teamwork. Ms. Bonnie and Dion.
For those who don't know me, my name is Bonnie Wagner. I'm a research evaluation coordinator at the trust, and I'm going to be presenting alongside Mr. Deanne Carruthers, who's a contract manager. We'll be presenting on Teams Work Alachua, the evaluation results. This will include a brief overview of the background and program design, sharing our evaluation results, what we learned, and providing recommendations for moving forward. So here's the Teams Work Alachua logic model, which depicts the circumstances we seek to improve our efforts and investments, performance measures, and ultimately the alignment with our goals. We recognize that violent crime and youth arrests are areas of concern in our county, coupled with hearing that there's limited opportunities for positive outlets for teens. Made us really want to invest in this type of strategy, and teens work providing that positive outlet for youth to increase their self-confidence, learn responsibility, and build on their career readiness. So these are key components of the program model. So you can see what they are, the 5 components on the screen. To go a little bit more into the work readiness training topics, including things such as communication skills, self-regulation, interviewing skills, doing mock interviews, resume writing, workplace culture, conflict resolution. So a lot of great skills to help build teams' readiness to be in the employment situation, as well as financial literacy, teaching them money management, budgeting, banking, understanding their payroll statements that they would be receiving. I also want to highlight what the job coach support and training and mentoring would look like. With the job coaches, we go out and meet with the teams at least once weekly to give them that additional one-on-one support and reinforce the learnings that occurred in the work readiness trainings. And then the job coaches would also go out and then provide support to the worksite supervisors. So they would have, so they would on the same page in terms of expectations and ensure that youth were receiving the quality experience in the program. This is one of the 3 slides that I have on demographic characteristics of the teens work youth. The large majority of the teens were youth were Black or African American and not Hispanic. There were slightly more female youth as compared to males. Teens that participated were younger, and I think this was one of the most striking distributions for me to see that a lot of 14 and 15-year-olds were the ones who signed up for the program. And 95% of the youth indicated that this was their first job. And we asked the youth at the end of the program why they chose to participate in teens work. And some of the things included they wanted work experience, they wanted to earn money, they wanted to keep busy. And then the 4th one that was a surprising one to me was their parents made them do it. But this was important in terms of program implementation because some of the youth weren't necessarily motivated by their own intrinsic of the other 3 goals that they wanted to learn the skills. So that was interesting to me to find that was one of the key reasons we signed up. Most of the youth served resided in Gainesville, which parallels the distribution of where the job sites were located. The job sites were primarily located in Gainesville with 3 sites in Newberry, 1 in Archer and 1 in Alachua. So you can see where the job sites were also where the youth were. We very much wanted to see meaningful employment opportunities where you could be exposed to future careers and see them in action. This slide displays the logos of many of our teens work employers. As you can see, there's a variety of government, municipalities, schools, nonprofits, youth serving organizations, and local businesses. These are our performance measures for the program. So following along with the results-based accountability model, we have our how much, how well, and better off. For how much includes the number of teens hired, hours of training and work, number of work sites, supports offered to teens and work site supervisors. How well included youth program retention, work site quality, supervisor and youth satisfaction, and whether the youth received at least 1 hour of job coach support. The better off, those measures included in work readiness skills, financial literacy, and the youth's earning. So as you can see on the slide, the gray ones were the ones where we fell a little bit below what our target was, but at 13 or 10 out of the 13 measures, the teens work agencies met or exceeded the expectations. So for our first pilot year, this is very good results and very promising to see that happen in that first year of implementation.
What is the warned out retention? Does that mean that they didn't complete their tenure or the number of,
So
during the,
retention means they, there are 6 weeks of employment. And then they had to have worked at least some hours each of the 6 weeks and completed the work readiness training to be considered routine in the program.
so it doesn't matter if they didn't show up as opposed to they weren't going to go. As I was just trying to figure out what it meant.
It could be for a variety of reasons why they didn't show up. It could have been that they let go, it could have been that they disengaged and they stopped coming. But what it reflects is whether they stuck with the program the full 6 weeks plus the 8 hours of training.
I'm so chair of the
Well, now the chair has a question. But, is that a data point which you all have, like, as to why the students did, like, did the job sites tell you they let someone go? Did they report that to MBL or the will?
No, but we didn't get specific reasons why the hours were lowered for each child in a systematic fashion. There was just, there was anecdotal.
I mean, because it could have been like we had a family vacation at the you might have missed something for that, but if there was an issue with someone not being, that they were like going for performance and just dropped out, I mean, those are good data points, I think,
I think what it is not really being removed from the job, and some of the youth started the job late as well, so they didn't do the full 6 weeks. And some of the job sites also ended a little earlier as well. Both agencies are required to do a weekly report back to me, so some of that information was given. Can they move kids to other sites because of some job sites ended? So that's a reflection on both everything.
Actually, we get some analysis back, because that's really the only disappointing thing out of the whole program. So if we get some analysis there, that'd be great.
Yeah, I think,
Including my parents made me do this, and I really didn't want to stop with it. It kind of just would be interesting to see like what the reasons were that the kids are off that.
Thank you.
Well, I just wanted to ask, I agree with you, you guys have a little deeper analysis, because what you're saying is if the program ended early, the child could not get the 4 to 6 weeks, therefore would be in this category of not paid,
Yes,
which is a much different thing than I dropped out or, and clearly Dr. Barta and girls and some people are teenage boys, but I've been sometimes teenage boys that have to be pushed to do work, so I'm not at all shocked that the parent, I thought parents would be number one. But I do have, I would like, and I also would like to know if the groups that we have that are in this program, do they have some obligation to keep their job open for the 6 weeks? You said some are early, so I would like to, in terms of when you're analyzing what Mr. Pickinson asked for, I would like to know a little more about that. Thank you.
I think maybe even if you have this year's data, it may be worth going back and taking a look at that to see if that is there, because that 62% number may be low. Like to me, a student shouldn't be counted as not retained if the job site didn't stay open for 6 weeks. So and that percentage should be, like, if they only offer 4 weeks of employment, and they should get credit for participating for them and do what they did the pre-employment. Yes.
Is it possible to expand into the rural communities? I saw those percentages were low, but giving those kids that opportunity to find employment opportunities in our rural towns around.
It's common state recommendations.
One.
Bonnie, I might not have been paying attention. Did you say how many boys participated in the program?
45% of the 220 were boys. So Jacksonville does a similar program, and they have way more. They have a way higher percentage of growth. I think it's something like 62%. But even at 55%, it's something to maybe think about next year. Maybe we do more intentional push of young men to enroll in.
I think that's really good.
Yeah,
I'm really happy.
Do we know if we more boys and girls?
I think it's pretty even, 50-50.
Just kind of, if that's doesn't reflect the balance of the population, or is it off?
Okay, well, should I continue?
That's okay. Okay.
So, we did a work readiness assessment pre-post to gauge what gains youth are seeing and what areas of knowledge gains or resume writing was one of the items in the work readiness skills that we saw the most gains in. And then financial literacy kind of breaks down kind of what areas the youth are learning more about and gaining from the program. So just a little bit further details on that. We also did a survey at the end of the program with youth. And overall youth reported very high levels of satisfaction with the program. They felt they gained valuable work experience that will prepare them for future jobs and beneficial work skills. Themes such as responsibility, independence, confidence, and job knowledge were areas that impact the youth noted in their open-ended text responses. And then 82% of you said they want to participate again next year.
That is back.
Yay! And youth were over half of the program wasn't long enough, so I think we wanted it to be a 6 to 8 week program, but it ended up being a 6 week program. So definitely that's something that's stay tuned for recommendation slide coming. For the supervisors, the worksite supervisors, they also had the opportunity to get feedback on the program. One thing that we asked them is why they chose to participate as well as along with the youth, and they really saw value in the mission and goals.
They say the parents told them.
They wanted to help positively influence the teams, and some of them noted they needed the additional workers and they were interested in developing the future workforce. One of the comments that stuck in my mind was there was two respondents said that they had participated in a similar program when they were young, and they really wanted to give back in a similar way. So the worksite supervisors felt the program was of benefit to their business, and they also thought it was of benefit to the youth. As compared to the youth, more supervisors were satisfied with the program length, but 1 in 5 felt it was too short as well. 88% of supervisors would be interested in participating next year. And
Really good.
And then 22 indicated that they wanted to retain the youth that they hired in the program beyond that. And so there's 11 employers that said they wanted to retain these youth. So that's from a sustainability factor. That's awesome. This slide just is a recap of the different accomplishments across the slide that I spoke about. And this again is a pilot. It's the first year, and I think they really gained a lot of accomplishments and was well received by the community, the youth. When it came out, our phones just rang. People are just very interested in this program and being part of it. But no program, especially in its first years, without some challenges. This slide highlights some of the areas of improvement we'd like to see moving forward. For instance, we didn't see as many work sites outside of Pizza, which limited the participation of the rural areas. Another area of improvement is more support for the youth and the work site supervisors. Having youth coming in not really wanting to do the program, we needed more support and getting them up to speed and building on their intrinsic motivation to see the benefit. And then also they're 14 and 15-year-olds. This is their first job. And a lot of times for the work site supervisors, this is their first time doing this too. So more support in that area. So from here, I'm going to turn it over to Dion, who's going to speak more about our recommendations moving forward and what we had.
Yes. Transportation, I don't remember how the kids got from home to job sites. Was that up to them, up to the parents? And was that an issue that?
Only Goodwill budgeted for transportation for the youth. We also know that you can get on Gainesville bus transportation for free right now. So that was not something that was presented to us for transportation from both contract providers overall. It was in the Goodwill budget, with bus, passing and things like that for transportation. They're doing the fun. So if you recall, I did present on Teams Work Alachua in July, and there was the question, I can't remember which board member was talking about data. Bonnie addressed that today, as we got our data and feedback, because that was towards the end of the summer program of Teams Work Alachua, which we want to remind you was a pilot. So I'm on the recommendation section of this presentation for you guys today. The CSAC staff recommendations to the board is a collaborative model based on the strength of both providers. Staff recommendation recommends contracting with minority business listing to provide job recruitment events for youth and worksite outreach in Alachua County, including rural communities, which was also a part of the pilot as we asked about more rural jobs. The reason we looked at the strengths of minority business listings were they were able to organize community events for recruiting youth and also job sites with their connections in the business field here in Gainesville and also in Alachua County. Staff recommend contracting with Goodwill Industries to hire onboarding youth, handling the payroll program process for youth, provide work readiness training, provide weekly job coaching, supporting worksite supervisors, and collecting required data for the summer 2023 Teams Work Alachua program. We met with both of these providers separately in December, discussing this model of a collaborative model. We looked at Goodwill because they have a careers pathway program and framework currently involved in Jacksonville, which they brought here to Alachua County this past summer. It shows success in Alachua County and also in Jacksonville. Their program there is called the Mayor's Youth at Work Partnership Program. So that track record in those areas of their strengths that we identified in this model that we put together. In conclusion, over the next months, CTAC staff will meet with both providers to complete their scope of services, budget narratives for Teams Work Alachua. CTAC staff will propose, I got a 3-minute limit. CTAC staff will propose the budget amount for approval to the board in February board. Any questions?
Just a quick one, Dion, do you think that the minority business listings will be able to make those networking connections outside of Gainesville in Alachua County? Because I know transportation is going to be a big challenge out there, and I just wonder to what extent they are networked with those employers.
The model is to recruit jobs in those rural areas so the kids can work within those communities, not to come to Gainesville. So can they do it? They will have to answer that one. But that's the goal. It was set up that way this past summer as well. Both providers had assigned rural areas to recruit and also recruit job sites in those areas. So we wanted to try to build on more of that with this model.
And I'm really excited that you did that, and I'm just wondering if they're going to need incentives, because that's going to be a different kind of work for them. A lot of new reaching out and making connections, so I don't know, we'll just see how it goes this year, but I can't believe it did this well. This is fabulous. I'm so happy. Good job.
I don't know who goes through the analysis, and beyond the line, but I have a question about what's on page 1. So, beyond,
The question is,
I do have one question about the recommendation. It looked like it was about the right amount of time, 6 weeks, and one program to be 8 weeks originally, so are we going to shoot for a 6-week program?
You're still shooting for 6 to 8 weeks. That's how we had it in the RFP. Last year, we were a little bit later behind schedule than we are right now. This time last year, we were just probably finalizing the RFP process. We signed the contracts in March, I believe, last year. So we're a little bit ahead, but it's going to be us pushing and working with those providers to try to get this out the door as quick as possible. So following the board decision in February, we'll be starting to get those contracts done once we get the budget and everything in place so they can get out and start.
Yeah, because we didn't really make that up, we didn't approve anything until February. March. I need to ask a question about the analysis.
Yes.
You don't have, work readiness assessment. And it says, being on time and appropriate rest. It says it's some gain, and there was no change. Is that an issue? That would be the first
It's a
question.
pre-post test, so your ability to make gains is based on what you know from. I guess the team stuff that they know how to do that, so there wasn't much room for them to improve. So yeah, it says 19% had gains and then 73% had no change, so. There was very little that.
So who did the analysis there? Was it the provider or was it the children?
Or your work self.
The kids did the.
So like self-assessment?
Yes, self-assessment, yeah, so the teams were.
So it would have been, I think it would be helpful to know if the employers felt like it was an issue. So that they can see whether or not that's something that we need to work on, whether
Yeah.
Goodwill needs to work on that, when they're doing whatever they're doing.
Yeah, I haven't had some interesting conversations with staff.
Yeah.
There are a lot of older than we've had.
Yeah. And, and as far as resume writing and developing bank account with budget and pay stub, I would think that if I understand the pay stub, that we want close to 100% on that one, so they know what they're, and if this is coming from the kids, that means that nobody took time because they need to know about the, you were paid a certain amount, but there's this little thing called taxes that you paid into, and so that they need to understand that. So I would hope
That's that financial literacy part that we.
Yeah. And as far as using a bank account, they may or may not, they may just go cash a check, and developing a budget. While that might be something that is very worthwhile. I don't know how much success you have with a 14 or 15-year-old person. As far as developing the budget. I mean, this is money, I can go spend it. So anyway, but I do think that understanding base though is important. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Number 20 now.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So to our staff, thank you. This board threw a curveball to y'all last year. I mean, it was a curveball, and it was probably not well received, but I really, really appreciate everybody kind of stepping up and making this work. To see the results of this program as a pilot program is, I mean, it's just truly amazing. To the two providers, I see Wayne, Mr. Fields are here. I mean, this is game changing for our community, for so many kids and families. That to see the recommendation of taking the strengths of the two organizations to kind of supercharge this for next year and doing this in January and thinking about outcomes for kids. So many people say, oh, they're in high school now, too late. It's not too late. It's not too late. And to see the work that the providers, the staff, and the families did to get these results in the first year, but we're just trying to make sure payroll gets processed. I mean, the big thing for me, and I agree with all of my members' comments, but the big thing that really jumps out at me is hours of supervision provided by teams. Our target is 400, and we almost doubled that. That tells me that the teams and the supervisors and the families and the providers, they bought into this big time. And so I can't thank y'all enough. I think it deserves a round of applause. And it's just so awesome. It's just so awesome. And I know it's going to get even greater next. So thank you, Mark. Thank you, staff.
And thanks, Dan. And this was one of my favorite programs that we heard from last year. I mean, honestly, when those kids got up and talked about their experiences with employment, and most of them were talking about it being their first job. I mean, it was instilling work ethic and giving them job skills that they had never experienced and getting them excited about working, because who wants to work, but they were excited. The kids were enthusiastic, and the fact that the two providers have now collaborated and made this work, I'm excited to see where this program goes on.
Yeah, and I would add, I mean, I've talked to employers that were like, these kids have changed my business and we are improving our business because of their input. And for a young man or a young woman to hear that, it's just so empowering. It's just really, really, really. Thank you.
Madam Chair. And both of our providers are here. And I don't know if they would like to say anything. I think I told you all when I went to Newberry, they had actually hired one of the young people from Teams Work. So, and they were excited to tell me about that. And I think we've had a lot of those success stories from this program. So, thank you for saying thank you to us, but I want to thank Goodwill and I want to thank Minority Business Listening for your work, because this program could not have been successful without you. So thank you.
Madam Chair, is there anything, I know a few years back, there was something, there was a team program that the county commission worked with. Is there anything at the state level where we maybe be able to expand the program monetarily?
I'm not sure. I know the JTPA program, or when I worked with the team at CETA, yeah, the JTPA. All right, so, and JTPA still does exist. It's like, I think it's run like in Pinellas County through their Career Works. Was my niece, and beside that may be something, but it takes an organization, I think, to write the grant to pursue that. Very good outcomes. They have pretty similar results of what we're having here in Connecting Children. That's why, I was in full support of this when I brought it up. So that may be something that the staff need to kind of.
Who was the gentleman at the state that came down and spoke to us at the Florida Museum about?
The lottery executive director, CEO.
I wonder if there's any grant opportunities there.
No, there's some employment opportunities.
But what Lee's talking about is additional state funding.
Yeah. No, JTTA is, I think that's federal. I do take, I don't know if this can have anything, but that is something staff is looking at. So we need
It's online, it could be,
So wait,
anything else that's where.
so, yes.
Can I just add a quick thing, to our director, brand new director, so have you thought about having a grant writer on staff? Yes, because this sort of thing, getting federal matching money or state matching money requires a whole different skill set than what we're asking our staff to do right now in terms of keeping all these contracts moving and keeping the finances right. So just put that in your pocket and something to do with it.
On my listening tour, several folks have mentioned that, so it's in a bucket.
Okay.
For
The county hired one.
I was gonna say call the county.
Yeah.
Because
For the
until
community,
you get one, use that. Use it.
and then if memory serves correctly, they were designed to, that they could solicit people from not just the county commission, but the county in and of itself, help like them, to help them write grants. So,
They've also been pretty helpful with identifying grants that are actually available, not just write it, but just because they are part of the whole grant.
What's our association?
And those are all good ideas. I think also maybe we have career source. And that may be something that plus supports the effort, the department supports the effort through career source instead of bringing that in-house here for us. Yeah, and then maybe do that. But what I would like to add is that what I liked about teamwork, all the things are like, I think the 14 and 15-year-olds, I think why we see such a large number of that age group is because a lot of employees don't want to hire them, even though they can work because of the labor laws around the amount of time they can work for breaks. So this gives those students an opportunity to enter the workforce and to earn money and all those good things, to develop the skills early on. And so then they may cycle out. So we may actually see the younger students, younger age children in our program. And by the time students, they get to 16, 17, then they go, because I know the publics, they're really very, they may hire older 15-year-old that'll be 16 real soon, but they don't want to hire 14 and 13 just because of all the challenges of managing that in their schedule is what I was told. So I believe in this program. I want to commend Mr. Fields, and I don't know the executive from Goodwill, but that team for them working and making this happen. And what I would like to see is a lot of the municipalities in the outlying areas that they find something for our youth to do, because they work with job sites when I work in the summer program as a team. And Nellis County is doing that. And also, years of City of Gainesville did hire like counselors in training, like the older teams to work. So that may be an opportunity for in the rural areas, not just, as summer camp council, but, working with you, that may be something as well as with the school district, also Mr. Andrew Klein and something like that. If we have in our schools that maybe, we may be able to be job sites for, Thank you all. Good work. I'm looking forward to staff recommendations coming back and all of that. Mr. Field, would you like to say anything, you or Goodwill, since you all are here?
Yes.
Come to the podium.
Give me a second.
Okay.
My name is Wayne Fields, MD Listings. We are a business directory, and we distribute our businesses and make referrals to companies all over the county. So we have a very good connection. I want to at least to inform you all that one of the major sites in Micanopy, unfortunately, had some issues. They were scheduled to hire 20 individuals. That was Cuskawilla, but they had to shut the program down. And so that did hurt us. In addition, 14 and 15-year-olds are the ones who are encouraged the most by their parents. Once you get to 16 and 17, you're kind of on your own. At our employability skill training, we had 130 kids to come. 50 of those kids were accompanied by their parents. So with that in mind, those parents made sure that those kids were informed about the entire process. But I'm so happy to and look forward to continuing to work. I look forward to working with Goodwill, and that we will, and we've heard you on reaching out to the outlying areas. That is our plan. And so I know I'm going to say this, might get in trouble. We've already started. We've been recruiting for Hartford, Alachua, High Springs, Newberry, Jonesville, Waldo, and again, Micanopy. So we opened our website with hopes of being able to get applications filled out. Last year, we had 451 that applied to participate in the program. And you're right, the majority of those were 14 and 15-year-olds that did not get an opportunity to work. So we look forward to reaching out to them again. So
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nikki Thompson, and I'm a senior program manager and senior manager of internships with Goodwill. And I just want to say thank you again for giving us this opportunity. We are heavily invested in Alachua County as well as all 14 counties that we serve. And we're passionate about developing the talent pipeline for our youth. And I hear some of the recommendations, and Savannah and I have already kind of been talking about what we can do to improve, particularly with financial literacy, making sure students know how to go in, clock out, and make sure that whenever supervisors come on board, we're making sure that they're committed to those full 6 weeks and they understand how important that is for students. Thank you again.
Hi, my name is Savannah Simmerly. I'm a program manager with Goodwill and Teamwork Alachua, and I just want to say thank you very, very much. Madison and Joey are here. They're job coaches. We have interviewed each kid and have developed relationships with them as well as the community, and we just enjoy it, and we can see the
the seeds that get planted and then to watch them bloom is like, yes. And so we really thank you. And also just want to let you know that the community around here is also just supporting these kids in a way that's so influential to kind of speak on the retention that you had talked about. So 14 and 15-year-olds, some of the work sites, they have stipulations on who can work when, things like that, age requirements. When we had a gap of 14-year-olds, Newberry High School reached out and they were like, hey, we heard that, you know, there are a bunch of 14-year-olds who can't get a job, but they want that. And bring them on out, can we sign up? And it was 2 weeks into the program, but we were like, yeah, if you can do 4 weeks, let's do 4 weeks, right? So I just want to let you know the community, it's been great to get to know everyone. So thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, so that didn't require a vote or anything, I'm just receiving that. Under old business, we, in our binder is an agreement in trust and Alachua County.
There are no changes.
Like,
We needed a vote, I think it's already down. Yeah, I think we're just looking for information. Well, let's just be on the safe side. We already voted on this stuff.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, well, then,
Okay.
It just hadn't been, I think it hadn't been to the county.
Oh, okay. All righty then, and then we have any at the end of our agenda, board comments, board comments.
If you haven't seen the Main Street Daily News article, the interview with Marcia is fabulous. It did a great little read. So I just wanted to, if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's a great little article.
It's not postmark that and the whole staff for for the meeting that presented today, but also I continue to really appreciate the update of my how much we really went much more connected, but also to the entire staff.
On model, Alachua County legislative body, we listened to presentations from cities in the community, and I wanted to let the children know that I'll be allowed to speak 3 minutes on the topic of asking the legislative body to give some consideration to changing the phrase and describing you from at-risk to at-promise. State of California has always been successful in making that change, and we did that a couple of years ago. And so they've been very cooperative in sharing that information, with me as to how they did it, what strategies they used, etc. So I will be making that request, because the only way that we can make that change is through the legislative body.
And they hold you to it.
And they, my understanding that they.
It's like that book comes out.
But it just won't benefit the young people in Alachua County. I hope that it'll benefit all the young people in the state of Florida. There'll be enough state that says this phrase of at-risk just won't do. At promise, at potential, at opportunity, something other than at risk, because of the negative connotations that go along with it. Thank you.
2 informational items, one for our board, one for our staff, for our board. So tomorrow at the Board of County Commissioners, we're going to be receiving a presentation of Gainesville for All. They're putting in a one-time request that will be similar to matching the city of Gainesville's commitment. We've had some preliminary discussions at the board level. I believe we have support for using ARPA funds for one time, with the understanding that on an ongoing basis, and I'm just saying that, I'll speak more for sure, but on an ongoing basis, that obligation to make sure that it's financially viable will fall on the organization, and they will probably be looking to the trust to see what they are presenting to us. So I would suspect if we get through that tomorrow, that they will be coming back to this body for the budget cycle and be thinking about how do we fund at Promise Children through our providers based on performance measures, and so I wanted y'all to hear that. I guess our staff do. And then the second item, Madam Chair, is for our staff and Director kind of probably wasn't involved in the budget discussions last year, but we did have a pretty significant discussion, a couple of them, about how are we planning to potentially use fund balance and what are some of our options. And now that we have it, I've waited until the opportunity to welcome our finance director to the team. But now that you're here, that's just something that's on my mind, continues to be on my mind. I don't want to direct how to use it, but I want to see us using those funds in our community over the course of the next 3 to 5 years in a way that is not necessarily recurring, but in a way that builds capacity and puts that money to work. So I just wanted to bring that up in the first meeting. Thank you, Madam.
Madam Chair, I wasn't saying anything, but just to also, because we're fortunate enough to have a budget director. I think what is also key, because I don't think anybody in public office now has had the experience of what happens in a recession. You know, to kind of read the tea leaves, because I know that the amount of property taxes are good for next year, but I'm sure the number of building applications has gone down significantly over this course of the year. So we also need to think about, you know, what do we need to retain so that we can, you know, get through that and make sure that all organizations are funded when things aren't so rosy.
Okay, thank you.
So the current year, so the
What's the goal tension?
just to respond to the current year ad valorem, which will be 23-24, is based on values as of a week ago. So everybody knows that, right? There's the upcoming budgets. What I believe Commissioner Pinkerton is referencing is potentially the following budget cycle. If the bottom falls out and value were to drop. But that's, we have this argument every year in case.
So I'll add my usual song to it, which is I would love for that also to be part of the strategic planning process, where we decide what resources we need, what one-time expenditures are going to come from that. You know, Dr. Hart brought up the point of a grant writer. And those are the kinds of conversations too that need to be part of that whole planning process and having to use all of those dollars. And so my 2 cents on that issue is, but make sure it's integrated into a plan so that we don't find ourselves then having to pull funding from something that people are now used to getting the funding for. So were you working your way around with that?
I was.
Okay.
I don't think anyone else had anything else.
I did send something to Marcia and Bonnie the other day that I really should have thought to have them send to the board, which is the child well-being indicator data just came out. And it had some really good data that not everybody may have seen or but if you could maybe forward that, that had some really good information on Washington County and the child well-being data for 22. Some better, some worse. Better and some worse.
So I didn't ask this question earlier, but there were some sheets that were at my desk, at our desk. The quarterly financial report.
Yes, there was an update to what was sent out. The property taxes were not included, and so we had to update that. So it should be the
Receipts.
Which tab?
It was tab 6.
Thank
Tab
you.
6, yeah. So, yeah.
Let
Yeah.
And I probably left to the commission about the appointees, but I just.
And then tab 8. Because really tab 8 is what was updated.
Yeah, that was the other page, that was 6 and 8.
Yeah, 6 and 8.
All right. So anyone, any of our other members have anything? Okay. Well, I don't have anything either. Dr. Postman, again, thank you for your service with us, and we're gonna miss you and our future meetings. All the best. Glad to be back here in the new year. And there's a lot of good things. We're going to do good. There's nothing else. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
You did.